Hi, my name is Greg Radajic, and today I'm going to show you how to use AI to write a book. I'd actually released a video before on how to do this. It was actually in book number 9. The first 9 books was me researching and learning and iterating on how to do a book. It was actually not easy to do sometimes, especially a 400 or 500 page book. The AI often lost track and didn't do sensible things. So I learned how to do that, and now I created something called Book Memory Bank, which allows tools like Cline and other AI tools to keep track of storylines and plots and characters and information about the book, which is critical in keeping things on track. So today I'm going to go ahead and use that. The tools I'm going to use are our Cline and Claude 4.0. Cline is a visual code plugin that you can get. It can create files, it can call out to the LLM, it can actually run browsers, it can do all kinds of things. And so I'm going to use that kind of as my central piece to create the book. And then I'm going to use Claude 4.0. Claude is one of the more capable AIs to write. It's also good at planning things out, as you'll see. So I'm going to use that to actually make the book. I'd actually published 2 books before AI was around, so it's been really an interesting contrast to see what's happened with this. This isn't just a turn a switch and have it go. You really need to interact and be with the book. You have to review things all the time. You have to be watching what the AI is doing. You have to be nudging it in the right way. So it's actually a fairly time-consuming. Nothing like writing, a 400-page book from scratch. It also acts as your editor, and so it does a good job of the actual writing part. You often want to adjust tone and story plots, story arcs, characters, bios of the characters. These are things that the human gets involved and edits, and so you're still very involved with the book. That involvement, you can choose how much you want to be involved. I found if you just kind of let it go, the book's not very good. Matter of fact, it can go kind of off the rails so bad that by the end of the book, it's nonsensical. Using the techniques I've developed, I'm actually able to keep it on track and write a pretty decent quality book. So as I mentioned, we're going to go to use Visual Studio Code. This is a great engineering tool, but it also could be used for writing documents. The first thing we're going to do is you're going to go to View Extensions and look for Cline. So I already typed that in there. If you don't have it already, there should be an Install button. So click that. Once you've got that, you should see this icon over here. You want to go to Settings. I'm going to do API providers, Open Router. You can do the big ones yourself, Anthropic or Google or whatever it might be. You can also use whatever VS Code is using. So if you have a corporate license, you want to use it for some reason, you can click this and it'll let you do that. You can see here, I can select all the models available to me. As I said, I'm going to go Open Router. I will occasionally go to Anthropic directly. I found it does weird things sometimes. Anthropic will sometimes get rate limited, and sometimes Open Router has large context window problems, so I kind of go back and forth. So today I'm going to go ahead and use Claude Sonnet 4. I've used 3.7 a lot. I think all the other books had 3.7. I'm going to play around with 4 today. So once you've got that, you can click Save. I'm not going to go into how to get the key. You can go figure that out if you can't. There's lots of online help in doing that. So click Save. Well, as I mentioned before, I've developed something called Book Memory. And so the first thing we want to do is we want to go actually download that. So if you go to GitHub and look for my name, you should find this overview. If you click on repositories, the first one there will be Book Memory Bank. There's a few ways to get this. You could check it out with Git. I don't think you want to probably do that if you're not a tech person, so I'm going to go ahead and just download the zip file. The first thing you want to do is create a directory to put this in. So you can see here I'm in Books folder. I'm going to go ahead and create a folder. We'll call it Mystery to start with. So that's good enough right now. All right, then we're going to go back to VS Code real quick. We're going to open the folder we just created. So I just have it right here, Books Mystery, select folder. And then this is important to be able to do something called checkpoints. So I'm going to add folder to workspace. So again, just the mystery directory. We want to add that in. If you don't do that, it'll go ahead and it won't be able to do checkpoints, which is fairly important. It's more important in code, I'd probably say, but in this case, if you want to go back to a point where if it's gone off for some reason, it's a way to do that. All right, then. So we're now going to unzip that file or the book memory bank we created. And I'm not going to show this. Hopefully you don't unzip a file. So there's a mystery directory. So this will be the book memory bank that the app will go ahead and use. You'll need to do one thing here. You'll need to rename to just get rid of the word main. I'll try to fix that, make that a little cleaner in the future. All right, so folder setup, VS Code setup. So let's go ahead and start talking to the AI. So if you go back to VS Code and open that folder, you should see this. So I'm not going to go into all these files initially. The one thing you'll need to do is you'll need to go ahead and go to custom instruction to copy something. So if you see this here, there's three little characters there. Go down all the way. Which is right here. So about line 185. I'll look at making this easier in the future to make this a little simpler. You'll want to make a file called Cline rules in the root. So .cline. So this again will let Cline know about book memory, which again this is critical to have this. If you want to review it, you can kind of go into the details here. It's fairly comprehensive and involved, but again, it's to track information about the book. The other I recommend doing is going into system prompts. So this is kind of something that Cline will always send in guaranteed. And really, it's fairly important to have this, I think. Part of it is the style section. While we have style created and we should be using it, it's really important the AI doesn't sound like an AI. You want to sound like a human. And so this kind of goes into some of the details of how to make it do that. And this is lessons learned over those 11 books to figure that out. And so you can override the style. You can do it for each character, and you can do it the overall book. That's fine. Like I have a book where the AI is actually, or an AI is one of the characters. And so it used a style like an AI. So I actually wanted to be more robotic and kind of unnatural sounding. So you can still do that, but this helps get that. So if you go back to Cline and go to settings, there's a box down here. It's called custom instructions. And I've already pasted it in there, but essentially you just paste it in there. So the first thing we want to do is we want to have Cline talk to the AI to start writing the book. Make sure you're in plan mode. Act mode will actually create files and do things. Right now, this is a discussion, so we're going to just have a chat. Kind of brainstorm is the way to think of it. So we're going to do a murder mystery novel. As I said, I haven't done a lot of murder mystery. I've actually never written one before. I've done sci-fi and tech books. And so this will be something new for me. I've read a number of them. I'm more of a sci-fi guy, but this will be an interesting experiment. So it's important to have something useful as your title because as you can see here, Cline will use that in the list. And so don't do something not obvious because then you have to try to figure out what it is. You can do searching and stuff, but it's really annoying. So just click right here. And it's going to go in, it's going to talk to the AI now and say that, basically Greg would like to do this. And it's going to take the Cline rules and other things, and you can see here it's actually going in now, and it's initializing the memory bank. And so this will take a few minutes. It'll go through and it's reviewing the files. At the moment, there's nothing in them. This is okay. This will actually verify all the files have been created, and they're there and they're correct. So I recommend just letting it do this. So you notice it talks about that it was set up to do derelict or sci-fi. This is the first book that I used as memory bank, and it's the one that I based it on. Kind of ignore this for now. It's actually not using derelict. It uses derelict as an example in the memory file, so it's not actually going to use that for the actual information of the book. It's using it as a way to help the AI understand how to create the memory correctly. So you go ahead and you'll see it's going to talk about some questions here. And so we just need to answer that kind of thing. So let's go through each one. All right, so instead of initializing memory bank, now it's going to probably ask some questions. So again, we're having a discussion. Pretend it's just another person you're having a chat with. All right, so you can see it's asking questions. So, all right, so based on these questions, I'm going to go ahead and do some answers here. And this isn't final. You can change this. I think you could write half the book and change it, even though I don't necessarily recommend doing that. All right, so it's going to go ahead and take the answers I did and think about it. All right, you can see here it asks some questions. So I'm going to answer them. Let's do remote island. Kind of fun, a little different. I don't care about the region too much. Let's make it a private investigator. Let's do for psychology. Let's go ahead and do manipulation, gaslighting, and family secrets. So a few things there. I'm going to be more focused on the psychology of the killer. Let's make the victim seem just kind of innocent. I'm not sure of motive, not sure of style. So again, let's have a chat about that. All right, came up with a name, the Hollow Shore. Sure. Actually, I don't care too much about the name right now. That sounds not horrible. Let's see. So we can read this. Investigate a suspicious circumstance on daughter's recent suicide on a private island. Didn't kill herself. She's murdered. Trapped on by a sudden storm. Wow, we're being really classic there. She must navigate a web of family secrets, psychological manipulation, and gaslighting that spans generations. All right. Let's see. Let's see. So there's someone who is systematically destroying her sense of reality for years, making her question her memories. Wow, this is cool. Kind of horror level. Gaslighting, manipulation, family secret, isolation. So it looks like she's not murdered for money or passion because she's finally starting to remember suppressed childhood trauma. Okay, that's cool. I can go with that. Okay, so for style, it actually did some things there. That's interesting. So again, I said I don't know, so it came up with some things. What I like to do is I'd actually like to say for the style, let's go ahead and look at the types of authors that might write this kind of book, talk about their style. Let's get some details here, and then we can interact, and maybe we can decide on one. Style's important. It's not copying the author. It's using it's like writing like they would write it, which isn't copyrightable, and it's legal to do that. I'm not trying to copy a book or characters or anything else. It just kind of I want to channel what that author would write. So we're going to go look at what I came up with. This sounds interesting. Heavy folk play, placing characters, psychological investigators, twisted psychological thrillers. Gothic suspense. Okay, cool. Character driven. That's interesting. Dark humor, enterprise. Good. All right. So what we can do here is we don't have to pick one, and you could do whatever you want. You could knock it any style. You could describe the style you want it in. The style is kind of a shorthand. Again, when I say style, it's going to kind of take this. It's going to take this information here. And for the approach. So for style, I'm going to go ahead and make it a mix, as I said. So let's go ahead and do French, Flynn, and Atkinson. Let's go see what that says about that. So you can see here it's taking the style of all three, and it's going to take, again, these things and integrate them in. So this could be kind of a weird mismatch of styles. I kind of like... the Island of Living chapter, deep psychological exploration, beautiful haunted descriptions of the landscape. That looks great. I kind of also want it dark. It's a little twisted, cutting dialogue, uncomfortable truths, dark humor. That's great. That's what I kind of would enjoy seeing. Complex layered timeless structures. So Kate Anderson, so it's going to do kind of past events and present. It might make it more complex. We'll see how it goes. And then it talks about the blend. So you can see here how it's going to actually do that. I'm not going to go into a lot of details here. That looks good. So we're going to do a twist. So, yay, it's a murder mystery. You might have done that anyway, but I'm going to emphasize this to go ahead and do that. There. So it's describing the twist. Again, it's on chapter. Oh, she's not hired by the family. Posing. Oh, that's awesome. Great. Yes. And the detective was actually from the island. Okay, cool. It's actually the person who hires a victim that's going to go in and actually try to get some help. That's really cool. But again, it took the style of those authors. So characters are what they seem. Was Flynn. French is a memory trauma and places holding echoes of the past. Atkinson's complex timeline connection. So this is really good. I really like the style. Okay, great. I kind of ready to start. Yay, and make sure to update memory bank first. Okay, so this is important. You'll be doing this a lot. It can kind of detect sometimes when to update. It isn't completely working automatically, 100%. It will always update memory bank when it writes chapters and outlines. The idea is that as the AI writes, the things happen. While we might have a master outline, there's details that memory bank needs to capture. And so it's critical that those things are updated or it'll start losing track eventually. So you'll see it'll probably update some of the files. I may not get all of them. So you can force it to do that. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to click on Act. As soon as I click on this, it's going to start updating things and creating files and writing some things. One little note here, you can see the top. I'm not going to go into all this. You can see the name. An interesting one here is this 26 cents. That's how much we spent so far. So my AI cost using Claude 4.0 Sonnet has been 26 cents so far. You'll go 30 to 50, maybe $60 for a book, depending on how much you interact. So just realize as the book gets written, there's more text, and you're paying for the amount you give the AI and the amount it gets back. And so this will scale up quite a bit, so you'll be spending more. But obviously, just to start this like this, if you're just using AI just to outline, you could do this, and it would cost $1 or something to do that, probably, even with interacting, maybe a couple dollars. But we're going to go and try our whole book. So again, let's go ahead and move to Act mode. Let me go enter that in, which is kind of a null, but let's go to make sure I really want to make sure it updates memory bank is the first thing, because I need it to do some things there. Yeah, there we go. So update memory bank. Please start with a master outline and just one technique I've developed, making a master outline, verify the outlines you're happy with it. You need to make sure you're good with it. And then we're going to just do one chapter outline or maybe a couple. I used to do all the outlines first and then start writing the chapters. I found it's better to do incremental. What will happen is the outline will cover new things. A chapter will actually come up with new stuff. It's like it's pretend it's being creative, essentially. And so you want to be able to take those things it discovers to drive future outlines and future chapters. So I kind of do a piecemeal. You can play with this. Again, you could write the whole book in one blow without a lot of outlines. I just find this technique works better. So let's make sure it's got that. And it did actually say it has outline up there, but again, I really want to emphasize this, and I really want to do chapter 1 outline. I don't want to write the first chapter. Great. So it's going to tell you the outline up to 30 chapters. It's 3 acts. Great. Timeline, character arcs, it looks good, and then the beginning of chapter 1. All right. So as it's telling you to do, you just move to act mode. So click act. See here, it's making the master outline. And so this will take a few minutes to do this. A lot of this video is obviously already cut up. Just realize the AI takes some time. It can take minutes sometimes to go do things. And so I'm going to just check back in. My advice here, again, step 1, after you've done your collaboration step in planning, review the chapters. Like, actually look at the master outline, look at what it's talking about, make sure you're happy. And then there's some other memory bank files I go into that you need to check to make sure, again, that you're happy with them. So you can see Cline and the AI work together. It went in to summarize what it did. It made the master outline, did the chapter, project brief, role, and characters. I did notice it's not updating all memory bank. Again, this is something you really need to stay on top of. So I'm going to go ahead and remind it to do that. You'll be finding yourself doing this fairly often, which is a little frustrating, and I'm trying to make better. Okay, so when it updated, again, it grossly did not update. You can look at all the files it went into. I'm going to go through these really quick just to give you an idea of what to look for. This, again, is really important to be tracking. And so it gives a summary of the story, plots, twists, and all the files. So let's go look here. If you go to book memory core, they're mostly in here. So added context is the file that's tracking what's going on currently. So again, it thinks it's about to prepare chapter 1. It has some secondary tasks it's thinking about. Nothing's blocking, which is great. The time frame is like whatever. You can take as long as you want or short as you want. I don't know why it's even doing that. It did the last thing it did. It talked about decisions it's made. So this is things that it is on its own decided to go actually do, which is really kind of cool. It took some of my feedback to do some things. No revisions. If you do some major revision later on, we'll update here. So again, immediate plans, which is write the next chapter, talk about what some of the things are going to be in that. The challenges, I think balancing the distinct author styles, that's great. I think that's actually really true. Imagine the timeline. This is going to be interesting for me because the flashbacks and timeline, because it's more complex than I'm used to, is going to really challenge the book memory. So it's going to be interesting to see. Some research needed. This may or may not happen. We'll see. We'll see. I don't know in details on that one. It's capable of going out to the web and doing research or looking at its own memory to figure it out. Some questions. So the true client one we talked about. And then some decisions and considerations. So it's really things it's thinking about. So let's see, it goes into some patterns here, kind of the style, pace. So again, these are all things, if you want to change it, do it now. If you do change any of these, the instructions should be reload memory bank. It'll bring it in or initialize memory bank. So you make sure it actually updates because it's actually tracking this in memory. If you close all the files and exit and come back in and then initialize memory bank, it'll do the same thing. So this is interesting. It's what's working, what's not working. So we really don't have any issues. Techniques it's finding, notes. And again, the example was on a past book helping it do this. Progress, again, kind of where we're at. So we're 5%, kind of pre-draft. Current milestone, and some of these are duplicates, but that's fine. Again, the more knowledge we have, the better. The more memory we have, the better. So this is great. All 28 chapters are currently not done, so we need to do that. Looking at drafting. And it's also looking, this is interesting, evolution of project decisions. So if I change this later on, I'll say 350 and went to like 400 or something. And so it's interesting to see kind of things we've done, directions we've changed, lessons we've learned. Here's a nice little list of kind of what it's done. This will get quite a bit bigger later on. And then the milestones, again, I don't want to get too worried about. So the next one's project brief. This is kind of just a high level. Again, there's a lot of duplication. It's fine. Some of this is the things we talked about earlier and asked questions about. It's key themes. It's really the high level meta. It'll have things like author name. You can go in, if you want to do this now, is actually a good point to put the author name. It will use this for the book material later. You don't really need it otherwise right now. It's when you're actually publishing. Story structure, again, goes into the structure of the story. It's assessing questions, core problems, perspective, cultural reference. Again, it's multi-psychological dread, recognition, manipulation, empathy. So if you like these, leave it. You don't have to change anything. You can also, I said you could edit these. Perhaps a better way is actually tell the AI. If you don't want to do psychological dread, you can just say, I don't want to do psychological dread. That's actually probably the good way of doing that, to kind of direct the AI as opposed to directly editing yourself. So key structural points, techniques, style choices. Again, it went into the blend. Recurring patterns, motifs, symbolism. Again, this is pretty complex. I don't know. As an author before AI, they didn't go into this level of detail. This is like a book Bible I used to have, and it had stuff in it like this, but this is just phenomenal detail. Which again, it really helps to keep track, because if it writes half the book and starts forgetting this stuff, the style will change and it will forget elements. So it's really important to remember that. It's going to go into the where it is and who's in it. Again, these are really important. Like the main character describes her. So in the future, if there's a reference of her height, it's 5'6". We know this now. So again, this is the book memory. We established all up front. If things come in, like she has a bald spot, for example, we didn't say that here. Maybe halfway through the book, for some reason, the AI writes that. It will update here that the physical aspect is she has a little bald spot. Is probably not a very nice example, but it's important, again, that we track at the beginning what we're starting with, and then over time how it changes. And so again, it goes into all the different people. It's going to go into the main characters. It's going to go into secondary characters. You can see here minor characters. It went into everybody that's mentioned. Again, it's important. If we go back to the ship for some reason to do a ferry ride, was it Captain John or Captain Murphy? If you mess that up, the book's not going to be very consistent. So this is great. This is really important to see that it's doing this. Timeline, this is also really important, especially considering the complexity. So again, if you don't like this, go ahead and tell the AI what you would like to actually change. One other file that I've done, it's kind of a duplicate of some other things, but I'm finding there's kind of three things that make it hard to write with AI. It's coming up with good ideas, which is always a problem. It's consistency over time, making the book coherent and consistent, which Memory Bank solves that. The last one is, again, I talked at the beginning about style, and you want it to be like it's written by humans. You don't want it to be AI. A lot of times AI, you can detect things in it that don't make sense. The system prep will help with this, but this gets into detail. So, for example, Kate has dry wit. She's ironic, layered narratives. So each character builds on the general style and goes ahead and does these specific things on top of that. And so this is super important. Again, over time, this might change. If you want to change it yourself, go for it, or again, talk to the AI. And it gives some examples of those styles. And again, it goes through everything, going into the dialogue. This is kind of interesting to see. Action beats. Goes into grammar, so we're doing past tense for main narrative and present for the flashback. So it was an interesting decision. I could change that now to be different, but I think that's actually that's fine. Capitalization decisions, so cool. How we're doing numbering, how we're going to format things. This is good. I'm going to review this before continuing, but we need to, again, I want to move on this. So. It goes into world-specific elements. I've come back after a couple of days of taking a break, and I had closed Visual Studio Code, and I want to go ahead and load information again. So I do a init memory bank to do that. What that does is it reloads the memory bank information, so it's now in context. One of the things you can do to help character development is actually do kind of an interview style. I have a friend named Daryl who's an AI expert that's also working on some creative work. It's not quite this, but he had actually been working on something where he could actually interview kind of role play characters. And so I discovered that Cline and the models can actually do this pretty well. So what I've done here is I've entered in a prompt that will improve the depth of the character. It's the main character, and I want to do the style, back of the story, character, whatever. And what I want to do is on a simulated question and answer session. So what will happen is the AI will ask me some questions, and I'll answer them as I was the character. When I'm done, I want to go ahead and update the memory bank. So this will become part of the system's knowledge of that character. So stay in plan mode. If you're not in plan mode, switch back again and go ahead and run that. You can go as far as you want with this. You can spend weeks on this for all the different characters if you want. I'm probably going to do a couple of them, probably the main one. And then some of the secondaries I may not do. You can also, over time, do this again. So if you get halfway through the book and don't like where the character is going, it'll grow. The character will actually update as the AI writes information. If you don't like that, you can go ahead and go back and do this to interactively kind of role play it. You can also update the file and then initialize memory bank again, but this is just kind of an interesting way to do that. So you can see here it's asked some questions that it wants to start with about our psychology and dialogue and voice relationships. I'm not going to answer all of these, so I'm basically picking and choosing here. So I'm going to say greatest fear, those she's trying to help or cause them loss. Style, Chris to the point when she's interviewing a suspect. When threatened or defensive, she goes quiet, not very verbal. Expressive memory fragment goes into detail of what she's feeling. So speech pattern. She grew up in the South, and when she's stressed or very interested in the subject, she'll get a Southern drawl. Relations with parents, very distant. She still does not trust them and avoids them when possible. Living space, very orderly, everything in its place. So go ahead and just give that. And again, this should continue a discussion. This is just a discussion you're having with the AI, kind of role playing. All right, so the AI had some follow-up questions. So I've got some answers here I've already done. So she grew up in Columbia, South Carolina. I lived there for a little while, so go ahead and bring that in. I've added in some Southern phrases I vaguely recall. I'm not Southern. I'm from the Midwest, but I remember hearing some of this stuff. 5 years ago, she thought she found a killer, but was wrong, and he ended up killing again. So she's upset about that. She over prepares. Her ordering, her being orderly person is natural. It's part of who she is. Her refrigerator is always messy. The rest of her place is clean, but that's messy. I don't know if that's anything to do with the story, but we'll just put that in. When she's doing a flashback, she speaks aloud, and her parents know she's working as a private investigator. Her parents say they approve, but she doesn't trust that. She thinks they are embarrassed. All right, so they had some follow-up questions here. I'll put some answers in. So yeah, that failure was kind of central. It happened after the police force. It was a murder course. It was a murder case, and there were some parallels as it was a family. When she's nervous or stressed, she taps her right index finger. She lives on takeout, again referring to the messy fridge. One of her superpowers, she has deep insight. She's able to tease out the correct answer with little information. Runs on intuition, which usually is correct. She religiously carries her cell phone, checking it often, and her humor is she laughs at situations that are over the top ridiculous. All right, ask one more question. What she thinks about at night when she's alone. Cases she is working on, and cases she could have done better. Sure. All right then. So you can see here it went ahead and updated her profile. This is the kind of stuff you're going to read through. You can continue doing this. You could ask for it to ask more questions. Just looking at this, it looks like it's about correct. I'm hoping the southern expressions come through. It only did a little bit there. We'll see what happens. It did say rich vocabulary southern expressions, which might be enough for the AI to pick up on. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just, again, I'm going to read this later, but let's just assume it looks good. So we're going to move to act mode to update. All right, so you can see here it went ahead and updated world of characters. One thing you can do is compare against old versions in here. So if you click compare, it'll actually show what it changed. Now, this is really helpful as you're, especially over memory bank updates, because you can kind of watch it do stuff, but it's very fast. It's hard to see what it's doing. So it looks like it updated. I've just read through it. It looks like this is decent. It actually added quite a bit more to the southern accent. So that's actually cool. That actually did what I said and didn't just have what in the list. All right, so we did the interview style. We can actually go the other way. So it's the same thing, except it's the other direction. So I'd like to have the AI role play, essentially, speaking as a character, and I'll give it feedback on what it's doing. This may not be quite as useful as generally found, but this is something you can also try. So again, make sure to go to plan mode before doing this. We don't want to actually be updating as we go. We want it to do the interview, do the role play, and we're all done and happy with it. Then we go ahead and act, which will update the files. All right, so different scenarios you can go ahead and do. This is interesting. This is different than the last time I did this. So let's go ahead and do interviewing a suspect and see what it's like. All right, so for that one, I like it. I really probably need to actually do the feedback here, but that's fine. Let's go ahead and see what she's like at a stressful moment. So that was pretty good. That actually, I'm liking the style quite a bit. I'm going to go ahead and tell it more southern drawl on that one and see what it does. Great. Lord have mercy. Yes. Sam Hill is wrong with me. That might be getting annoying after a while. We'll see how that goes. I generally like that. Again, each character should have their own style. So you really want to try to develop that style over time. If you don't, they all sound like the same character. You also need to, as you're writing the book, as you're collaborating to create it, keep track of that. The AI will have a tendency to kind of merge styles sometimes, so characters actually start sounding like each other. So you need to keep on top of that and make sure it's keeping that information in the world of characters and that it's actually using that style. That looks right. We're going to try one more, defensive and threatened mode. Great. That actually looks about what I was expecting. So really, she's pretty verbal normally. And so it looks great. So I'm going to go ahead and update. So let's click on Act. As you can see, and as you can imagine, you can go really in depth on this one. This is actually something you can have other people help you with. It's, you can actually have other people role play with it. This is kind of interesting in and of itself, kind of working with the character. It's kind of like you're almost coaching as the character. And so this could be really cool over time, and it can be a bit of a time sink, I found. So I'm going to go ahead after this is updated. I'm going to go ahead and do more of these. And the other characters, I won't go to record all of it, as this could be hours and hours of this stuff. I added a little bit. Again, I didn't add a lot here. I could have gone more in depth. If you go up here and do compare, it did in fact update. And this is giving some examples. So this is a many shot thing with LMs where you can tell it the prompt, but if you have examples of what you're talking about, it actually can work much better. So that's actually I really good. I like that. So I think we're ready to go. I'm going to go do character development a little bit more, and then we'll go ahead and start the book. So I went ahead and updated some of their characters. I got it to the point where I'm pretty happy with it. One of the things I want to do before we continue is, if you look in the README, there's some consistency checks. And because we did change some things in memory bank, it could have impacted other files. It could impact the outline. I'm going to go ahead and do some checks here. So we're going to do review all memory bank files for consistency, check for contradictions between the memory files, and then verify master and chapter outlines are still correct. The result of that was it looked pretty good. So went and did the consistency. Everything looked fine. This is not unexpected. We didn't make that many changes. Most of it's character stuff, and we haven't written any of the actual book yet. We just had outlines. So really, this kind of thing isn't going to impact the outlines. If I changed settings or something, that would have been different. And if we'd been later in the book, that would have been very different too. All right, so we went ahead. We got book memory set up. We developed characters. We even role played a little bit. The master outline and one chapter outline is done. So now it's just going and starting writing the book. The basic sequence here is going to be write a chapter outline, review it, write the chapter, review that, update memory, make sure that things have updated correctly. So there'll be emergent behavior happening. So what will happen is characters will develop over time without me doing anything. And it's really important and critical that as updates and the story arcs and the little details are saved back to memory, so we continue having consistency across the entire book. So it's very important that's happening. That's probably one of the key elements out of the book memory I want to get through here. If you don't have that, your book will go off the rails. Even if you put the entire thing in the context window, it'll have problems. I'm also going to switch to Anthropic's Claude Opus. It's going to be more expensive. I'm going to track it to see over time what it looks like. If it's going a lot more, I may go back to Sonnet or I may try Gemini for a bit. I'm going to go see if it's better. We're about $7 right now on LLM costs. This is on the 4.0 Sonnet. That's probably double what I would have done on the last 3.7 using book memory. So that's, the prices go up a little bit. So again, we're going to go start the actual book now. You can kind of skip through parts of this. I'm not going to go in detail in every chapter. I'll do a few chapters and kind of review what I'm doing, and the rest of them kind of do offline. It'll take me a few days probably. I'm already in real time over a week because I went to Michigan to visit my folks. And then probably I'm up to probably 3 days in the evenings and a little bit on the weekend doing so far where we've gotten to. So as I mentioned, we already have the outline created. So I'm not going to go over this again. I'm pretty happy with this. I reviewed it a couple times. We also have a master outline. So this actually should drive the rest of the book. As I mentioned, I'm going to move to Anthropic's Opus, so Opus 4. This will be my first time actually using this, so it'll be interesting to see how it goes and see what the cost is. And as I just mentioned, we're at $740 right now on cost. So because it's already got the outline, it should be able to realize what I'm saying here. So I'm going to say write chapter 1. And I am in act mode right now. If you wanted to redo things, plan would be the way to go, but we're just going to go proceed with writing the book. So as you can see here in these windows, you can see it actually dynamically writing as it goes. And so we'll see how this goes. It'll take a little bit of time to generate this stuff. The model's moderately fast. There's quicker ones, but this will take a little bit of time. All right, you can see here when and finished the first chapter. I've read through this pretty quickly. It looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and go into some detail in a minute here. It did actually get a little bit of the southern accent, so it's kind of showing that at least that part's working at the moment as far as her style of writing. This is something you'll want to keep track of. If it goes off, you need to remind it to use this style. Sometimes in the prompts I'll actually do that. I may actually start doing that if I see it going off. The nice thing is it actually goes ahead and talks about the key elements of delivered. So it went into what's in the chapter. Again, the voice of Maya, that's great, looks good. The mystery hook, it introduced some characters, and it blended the three authors. So again, it's kind of verifying what we did. It told how many words it had. So this is good. One thing it didn't do at all is updated memory bank. And I've got to the point where I've kind of given up on updating this automatically, at least using the technique I'm doing here. I may use something called MCP later that may make this better. But for right now, what I recommend is do the chapter outline, which is already done, write the chapter, update memory bank. If you want to reduce your costs, you can definitely do that by updating maybe every 4 or 5 chapters. You're probably okay doing that. If you want to make really sure that your information is kept up to date, do it every single time. And you see it actually went up to $8.90. So it's about $1 a chapter right now. This will increase over time. That's making me a little bit nervous. My last book was about $60 to produce, up from $25 when I wasn't using memory bank. So I may want to go ahead and possibly look at using a little less expensive LLM. We'll see what happens here. And again, the quality of the writing is really good as far as I can tell. It's hard to contrast. Like I could do a chapter with one model, do one with the other, and it's really hard to tell. It's almost subjective at this point because all of the frontier models, the latest and greatest, are going to be pretty good at writing. So as you can see, it's going ahead and updating the various memory files. All right, great. So you can see it went in and did that. I was a little suspicious of the files that updated. Only did 2, progress and active. It went in and went in details about what it did, with key elements, what it did in each file. If you're suspicious it's not updating everything, you just ask it. Did you update all the memory files that need to be updated? In this case, I buy it. The outline probably had the character development and story changes and all, so I think it's probably correct. It looks like it was actually correct that it did the right files in this case. Generally, if you explicitly update memory bank, it's going to do the right thing. When you change the outline and the chapter together, when you generate both, you're generally going to see it update more. So if you don't see it do that, you can actually just ask, like, what are you doing? And it'll actually think about it a little bit more. You can also explicitly ask it to update the files. So, on to the next chapter. So we're going to write the next chapter outline. It is looking like the costs are going up, so I may want to rethink a little bit about when I'm using the different models. I'm thinking use Opus when I'm actually writing, and going ahead and using maybe something less expensive when I'm doing essentially the memory bank updates, because it's actually doing creative work there. It's just updating. So I'm thinking maybe try to Gemini, something new for me. I kind of recommend, if you're price sensitive on this, just use Sonnet 4.0. Seems to be a pretty good bang for your buck. And that way you can just keep it on one model. And I'm not going to go into me switching back and forth. I just kind of FYI and see what it's going to do with cost. Okay, so went ahead and did the outline for chapter 2. I recommend here looking at what it says it did first. So again, talked plot advancements, character introductions, mystery development, atmosphere, key dialogue, regional voice elements. So it's kind of interesting. It's following that, and then kind of the scene flow. So look at that first, and then I would go in the actual file to see what it's doing. I've already reviewed this. It matches nicely. It's about what I want. So it looks good. So I don't really have anything I'm going to change here. So I'm just going to say write next chapter. So what this is going to do is going to take all the memory bank information. You can see it actually loaded the style guide. It's probably going to do some other things. And we'll then go ahead and actually write the next chapter based on the outline we just did. All right then. So I went ahead and wrote chapter 2. I've reviewed already the chapter. It looks good. The dialogue is looking interesting. It's looking very natural. I'm pretty happy with that so far. The plot's been interesting. It's kind of advancing the way I was thinking. So this looks pretty decent. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do update memory bank. This should go ahead and take everything that was done in the new outline and the new chapter and update. I would expect it to actually update more than it did last time, so let's go ahead and watch for that. All right then, so we went and updated memory bank. That looks good. So we're ready to start the next chapters. I'm going to go ahead and start writing these. Probably we'll go ahead and just start recording it back towards the end of this, where we're going to go ahead and do the final processing of this. Over the last few days, I went ahead and continued working on the book. I've completed all chapters, 28 of them. Reviewed the book, had some back and forth with the LLM, and generally happy with it. One suggestion with the latest version of Book Memory Bank, I recommend changing the prompt a little bit. Always tell it to look at the master outline. I had some problems with it going off. I'm not sure why it did that. It doesn't always do that, but I would just, every time you prompt it, I would just say always follow the next, or always follow the master outline, and then go ahead and write the next chapter. So now the book's done, I want to go ahead and check for quality. So we're going to go ahead and have it check for style, consistency, time accuracy, character, plot holes, any legal issues, like if I use someone's famous person's name or something, that kind of thing. And so I'm going to go ask it to take a look at that to see if it can find any issues. You can add to this if you think of other things, but this is just a handy list. Great, it's done. I just went through several steps here. I'll just review real quick. I did find an inconsistency. That's something I noticed in the original. I was hoping to be able to fix it at this state. So it found some things were revealed early. And so I went ahead and actually made an edit on that, which is great. It continued on. Found a couple others. So again, this is great. It's doing this. This is actually very helpful in your own books if you want to do this. If you write it yourself, having it do kind of reviewer and editing. So it went ahead and looked at style guide for all the different chapters. It was very consistent on style, so they didn't find any problems. And then it's something really interesting. I went ahead and I decided I was going to go ahead and have it recheck the consistency again, because it's so important. The book has that. I've run into this a few times in the past, which is kind of going back to my always follow the master online advice towards the beginning of this section. So I did it again. It did something really cool that I hadn't seen before. It actually created a timeline analysis file, which you can see over here. So I went in every chapter and kind of summarized the events, plot points, consistency check, and timeline. And it did it for the entire book. It's actually cost about $13 to go do this, which is a lot for one particular edit. So you can see it kept updating it. Towards the end, it figured out that the reality is it actually looks really good. It's actually very consistent now. It didn't find anything. It kind of summarized the different parts. This is kind of cool now. The timeline analysis gives me another view of kind of the master outline about the book. This is kind of interesting for me to read to validate if I think I want to change. I can go look at this now. So this is probably going to become part of my workflow. One of the interesting things about using AI is it will randomly do stuff. It'll do new things. One of the reasons I created the book memory bank is because I was doing a lot of it by hand, and it would just do something different each time. So the memory bank allows me to be very precise about the files it's going to use and what they're used for and how to go about it. That's a lot of the reasoning behind it. Both it's easier to do the book now because you can just rely on that, and it also provides consistency across all the different books. So I think we're done. I think the book is finished. It's now going to do some really quick post-production, which I'll go on to the next section. So one of the next steps we need to do is actually create the cover art. So I'm going to put this on KDP. It's Kindle Direct Publishing. It'll be an ebook, and I'll probably do paperback and hardcover. So there is a file in the memory bank. It's not really memory bank. It's kind of the production information. So if you go to production, it goes into some of this. There's scripts for creating the actual book, which I tend to find varies quite a bit in the quality, and I tend to be annoying. But as its cover prompts. The cover prompts is just information about what the prompt should kind of look like, and some ideas are on it. So my prompt now, I'm going to publish this book at KDP. I'll let you create 7 prompts for covers that match up for the theme, style, location, and characters of the book. That's all I'm going to say right now. I could go into more detail. The nice thing is if it is 7 of these, it should do a few that will be good. I've yet to find it not have at least one I'm interested in. What I do with these prompts, I then go into the web interface for ChatGPT usually. 4.0 has actually got really good image processing that actually does very good text. And so I'll probably use that once this is done. Review them. I might actually from there make some changes or tweaks I might ask for, and then we'll go ahead and do that. One thing I did not do is the author name here, which is generally on the book. So when I prompt it, I will ask for that to be added. So you can see here, did a bunch of prompts. The prompt is the name is obviously some idea about what it is with some detail. So after reviewing the prompts, that looks good. I did notice it did not include the author name and it did not include dimensions. So I'm going to go ask for that. It's important to have the dimensions. You want to get the right aspect ratio, and obviously the author name is something you probably want to have on the cover. Luckily, ChatGPT 4.0 is very good at text now. Before, it would really munge that up pretty badly. So this should actually work pretty well. So here's my session with ChatGPT. The site was acting really weird tonight. It was generating one image and not continue on, and it was locking up, doing weird things. So I had to kind of mess with it and generate just a few. One thing in addition, I don't have the other prompts in VS Code is this line here. It will sometimes know to create the image, sometimes it won't. So just make sure you're explicit about that. So you can see here it creates a bunch of images down here. I like that one a lot. That's cool, kind of misty, kind of house vibe. Kind of similar. I like the house better than the other one. I like the silhouette is cool. Don't like the bird one. Yeah, orchids I'm not a fan of. So, and the cave one's kind of cool, but a little too dark. So I actually went ahead and I told it I liked the first image, I liked the silhouette from the second, so I'd add it. And then it went in and did that. And so this actually looks, this is probably pretty cool. I'm probably going to go with that. I don't see any major issues. I generally like the look. It's kind of foreboding and dark, and I like that it has a detective in there. I think it's kind of cool. So I'm going to go with this one for the actual final book. And I once again had a lot of problems writing the file. I went ahead and dropped in a little bit of a vibe coding session here with the AI. I've actually updated a bunch of stuff here. You can see all the scripts that got changed. A lot of it's pathing, how I went about doing things. So I've gone ahead and I've really tried to tweak this quite a bit. And I'm going to go ahead and check this back in a repository. So when this comes out, I will already update all these files. So in theory, the next time someone tries to run a book, this should just work. Again, this is an area that I just have had continuing problems with. The actual document looked great. It went ahead and formatted paragraphs correctly. It did alignment correctly. So that all looked good. Here is the final Word document. I would note for KDP, the images are for the cover is completely processed differently, so you do not include it in the Word document. I generally will tweak this a little bit at this point. The problem with that is if you ever regenerate the book, you have to keep tweaking, but it's fairly minor. At some point, I may get a template that does this a little bit better, but you can see that. So I did my copyright page, I did a dedication, and here's the story. It formatted correctly. You can see the different. It originally was tabbing, so I fixed that one, which also should be included in this update. Formats are justified right, looks good. Another big one is that a lot of times the chapters, my previous attempts were not on separate pages. It didn't add a new page, and it's doing that very consistently. I'm going to do a quick pass through the book. It looks good. I went to the very ending, and I went in and did the About the Author page, so it looks good. Again, I'm very happy with the actual output of the book. This did an excellent job once I got to that point. It was just all the encoding and pathing and craziness in the scripts, which again I've fixed, and it should be much better on the GitHub repository. And again, this is why I created the scripts like this. You could have the AI actually dynamically attempt to create all of this, but the reality is you get varying each time, and I've also found it's very inconsistent. I think out of 12 or 13 books now. I've had this go one time really smooth, and other time has been a bit of a train wreck. This one is about an hour for me to fix. Again, I was trying to fix it out as a one-off. It was actually to check back in again, so I did a lot of it was verifying. When publishing KDP, even if you've done it a lot of times, it's useful to get a bunch of the metadata to do that. And so I'm going to go ahead and just ask it to go ahead and create information about publishing. So tell me what information I need to publish in KDP. I created this publication checklist file. I also have decided to create a series based on this character. And so I want to write a series description to create a series. And so you can see here, it's gave you pretty good details of what to do. So I need to upload this. I need to do the prompts generate images. I didn't know I actually did that. And went ahead and did the series information here. So that's the information. I did the blurb for the book. So this will be what I actually put in KDP. Keywords, which is super handy, and then also categories. KDP lets you do 3. It only did 2. I'm probably going to go ahead and have it do another one or just pick one for myself. And then you can look at some pricing. I play with this a lot. There's lots of websites and information. You could, again, ask the AI about pricing if you want more details. But this is good information for actually creating the book. So I'm going to go ahead and publish this to KDP. The last video I did went into a little bit of that. This isn't really the point of this video, so I'm going to skip that. I do have one suggestion. Now that you have a docx file, use Kindle Create. It'll go ahead and create the index files for you, or the index page. To make sure the formatting's right. You can tell it on hardcover and paperback, the page numbering. There's a lot of details that will go just take care of for you. And then when you publish it to KDP, it should just work. So again, Kindle Create, definitely recommend downloading and using that to take the Word doc and kind of make your final artifact to get up to KDP. So thanks for watching. If any feedback's great, let me know. I'm glad to help out, make changes if people find things that don't work well. And I can certainly give you advice on if you're running into some problems. So thanks, and good luck writing your next book.